Well, hello. Welcome to Tam Psych Advice. Thanks for joining me today. We're going to be talking about ENFJs. How are they so good at this? Well, you're going to find out in a minute. But first, remember to subscribe to my channel so that you can see my videos when I first put them out. You know what I'm saying? And how about like the channel? That helps those algorithms. And also share it with your friends. Hey, I'm putting in a lot of work here and I want to be able to share with you new insight that you're not going to find on any other channel. So, without further ado, let's get into today's topic. ENFJs, how are they so good at this? Do not let the FE fool you. There's a whole sophisticated, complex system lurking beneath the surface that cracks the code on a lot of unsuspecting people who just happen to creep into the ENFJ tutelage. So I don't know if you've heard about a certain guy out there, but there's a multi-millionaire YouTuber who built an empire on a pristine image. He gave relationship advice on how women should be treated and taught his listeners how to spot a cheater. He was the perfect husband and father for at least a decade. Well, there's another YouTuber on the scene who has been vocal on his podcast that he isn't fond of this guy, and people have torn him apart for it. So he revealed that he had been vindicated. Finally, he sensed a rat and he was correct. Turns out, Mr. Pristine Image built his whole MO on the perfect man for men to look up to, constantly talked about immature men. Trust me, you should follow me. He wrote books about it. I'm the man you want to be a friend to and a husband, the best husband to model after. He said he had no empathy for men who couldn't be faithful. He was super judgmental of other men. We're going to call Mr. I Knew It All Along. We're going to refer to him as Mr. ENFJ. And we're going to talk about some of the ways that he knew that something was up with this guy, Mr. Pristine, and how introverted intuition can work. And I'm going to show you some examples to help you understand it better in case you want to develop introverted intuition. Well, Mr. ENFJ had a friend who knew Mr. Pristine, and she said, Hey, I think you should have Mr. Pristine to come on your podcast, Mr. ENFJ. And Mr. ENFJ told her, Absolutely not. The lady said, But he says great things. He's a really good guy. Mr. ENFJ said, No, he's not. And he doesn't do great things. I can't have him on my show because I don't rock with pandering. And I read right through him, and I've done it from day one. This guy is saying everything he wants women to hear. And the woman said, Well, I'm sure he's a good guy, so you're missing a great opportunity because I can really hook you up and connect you with this man because he knows his stuff and he's super successful. So Mr. ENFJ tried to give it a second chance and watch some of his content, and he still came to the same conclusion. He rubs me the wrong way, and I think he's a fake. I'm gonna be honest, I would bump into this guy's videos every now and then and just kind of watch him from time to time. I had definitely seen him on a few TV shows, and he wasn't quite my type of person, but he definitely gave you the impression that maybe he had watched his, a single mother struggle. Maybe he had watched a sister deal with difficult men and he didn't want to be that type of person. He wanted to treat women well. He wanted to vindicate his mother and his, sisters or aunts who had been treated poorly by cheating men. He wanted to vindicate them by helping other people to avoid the same mistake because it was very painful for him to grow up and watch that sort of behavior over and over again. So he definitely portrayed this sincere sort of stance, I guess you could say, on the whole topic. And he just made tons of money. But it's difficult when somebody is presenting one way and it turns out that they're a complete other. How in the world does someone do that? You have to be a great actor. You have to be amazing to do that. How can someone do that? How can you present to be, it's very difficult for people to be something that they're not to that degree, where you're having to live that every single day, because he had a lot of people fooled. This Joker built his whole brand around being the best man, the perfect man, that other men actually looked up to him and wanted to be like him. And he constantly talked about immature men, put them down, told you how bad they were and how it's awful that they cheat and mistreat women. And he built this image on, I'm a trustworthy individual. You should follow me because I'm not going to lead you wrong. He wrote books about it. He presented as, I'll be your friend. I'll be your trustworthy friend, someone you can lean on. I'm a great husband. I'm a great father. And he would say all the time how he had no empathy for men who couldn't be faithful. And he was super judgmental of other men. It's fine to be super judgmental of other people if they're doing something wrong, but if you're doing the wrong stuff that the people who you're criticizing are also doing, what does that say about you? That null and voids everything that you've said, because why don't you take your own advice? Why don't you be the person that you are pretending to be? Well, of course, now he's pretending to be that person that he was always pretending to be, because he doesn't want to lose his mansion. And so he's asking people for sympathy, for grace, to accept him, flaws and all, that he has now found God and is trying to do better. Really? How are people supposed to believe that when it's just, you're already a walking contradiction at this point. So you're not changing on your own. You didn't come and confess on your own. You got busted, you got caught cheating, drinking, smoking substances, just living this whole lifestyle. And I think there's probably some other things, that's just me as an ENFJ, that I'm sensing that he needs to deal with about himself, that I've always suspected. You know what I'm saying? And some people might say it's okay to be that way. It's not okay to be that way. No matter what, I definitely think there are some deeper things going on, more than just marriage, but who are you, are you acting out because you're not able to be who it is that you want to be? There's a whole lot of implications there. But at the same time, how is it that an ENFJ knows this all along, and it seems like everybody else has blinders on, that they can't see it, they don't hear it, they're not picking up on it? And meanwhile, people are jumping on the ENFJ, telling him, you're crazy, you're a fool, what are you talking about, you're just jealous, you're hating on this person. And he's like, okay, I'm trying to tell you, there is something else, there's something up, I sense it. And that's the nature of an ENFJ. They're going to sense things even when other people aren't. It's like they're looking at this layer. For them, it's super clear. Like it's as clear as seeing a chair or a table in front of you. It doesn't really it feels like intuition, but it feels like you're using your sensor preference. It feels like it's right in front of you. Why can't you see it? So ENFJs can be amazing at this skill at picking up what's not seen, what's hidden. The crazy thing is that an ENFJ does not need evidence. So how would that stand up in the court of law? It might be very, very difficult because how do you defend what you know when did you catch the person cheating? Did anyone else catch him slipping? Have you seen him doing anything bad or wrong? All we have to go by are his words and what he's doing. And he seems to be a pristine guy. His wife hasn't said anything negative. So where are you getting this from? And that's how the ENFJ mind works when it comes to introverted intuition. In fact, this guy said that this lady kept begging him to allow this guy to come on his podcast. And he was like, I can't do it. I can't let this guy come on my show because I don't rock with the pandering. And the woman was like, what pandering? What are you talking about? But he was like, I could read right through this guy from day one. I talked about him on my podcast that I don't trust this guy. He's not a good guy. He rubs me the wrong way. He's a fake. And nobody believed him. But it turns out that everyone, especially if you were listening to all of his shows and going to his events and tuning in to everything he said and supporting his brand, I shouldn't say you look like a fool, but who's the fool? You know? So I think ENFJs have an advantage in this lane because this particular ENFJ said, this guy is posturing, he's grandstanding, he's spewing judgment, putting other men down in a condescending way. And he felt like he was projecting onto these men and feeding women relationship advice. And he felt like it was unfair because he felt like, you know what, you're building up your brand, you're potentially destroying relationships because you're not honest about the lens in which you're filtering your information from because you're not doing the right thing. He just felt very strongly this guy is not doing the right thing himself. And he was right. That introverted intuition has a mind of its own. And I'm going to try to help you understand this guy's viewpoint with some quote unquote evidence so that if you want to develop your introverted intuition, you can kind of see some examples of how an ENFJ thinks and arrives at these conclusions where you don't see it on the evidence on a piece of paper. So here's my weird attempt. And just so you know, I'm not a censor, and some of this may not make logical sense, but it's what the ENFJ is using in this situation to arrive at his conclusion. And it's more than one thing, it's several things. So how did Mr. ENFJ know that this guy was no good? He could see it from a mile away. He couldn't believe, he said, how are people actually listening to this guy? So number one, just the idolization was a clue for him. And just putting people on this pedestal in the way that people were putting him on a pedestal. Because his philosophy was you can't expect anything from somebody else because they're going to let you down. A second indicator was if someone is so judgmental and unwavering in their point of view, then that's a clue that there's something else going on. So as an ENFJ, he talked about having empathy for people no matter what the situation is. And it is kind of weird how ENFJs, you can know someone is wrong and you can still have empathy. So he was having empathy for the cheaters, I guess, is what he was trying to say. But you got to be able to hold both truths, and no one truth is the only truth. So this guy is presenting one lane of truth. What about the other side? So if someone goes hard on only one truth, that's a red flag. I think sometimes it takes a little boldness for an ENFJ to really reveal and try to break down their thought process on how they reach certain conclusions. But furthermore, he also goes into his psyche, which is something that an ENFJ will do. For example, he said, now this guy is defending himself. But how is he defending himself? He's using third person. Like the guy did a video where he spoke up, he says his name. This person did this wrong, and this person did this because blah, blah, blah. But I'm really a good person, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, why would someone use third person instead of using the word I? And he felt like it's because the guy is trying to dissociate himself from the mess that he's made. That's a pretty impressive assessment for somebody without counseling credentials, which also shows you how introverted intuition can go inside somebody's head, dissect things, and figure the person out. So he felt like he needs therapy because he's not even willing to own up. He's not really owning up to what he's doing. He's still distancing himself from what he did that was wrong, which could be evidence of, should you start back following this guy again? Should he be forgiven? Has he changed? Is he going to do things differently? Well, for the ENFJ, that was evidence right there that this guy is not ready to represent this fake self that he created. Is he really sorry for what he did? Has he changed his lifestyle? One of the other pieces of evidence was, he said, right after this guy got busted for doing all this stuff, just living this crazy, wild lifestyle, secret lifestyle, he was trying to make a video explaining his transgressions on one video, and then he decided to bring his wife in on it on a second video, and he was like, that's gold right there. I was so happy when he brought his wife in because he could compare one energy from the other. So he could see the energy in the first video and the energy that he was bringing in the second interview, and just deciphering those energies, he could tell a lot about what this guy's MO is now. He came across as a hustler selling a dream. Mr. Pristine presented as too good, as the nice guy. The nice guy likes being nice. This guy thought he had everyone hooked, and he thought that he would narc his way out of the situation that he put himself into. But it's not going to work. The nice guy likes being liked, and cheating is about the possibility of being caught, which will tear down his entire business. All the reasons why you shouldn't cheat are all the reasons why he did. And so the ENFJ is also looking at the feeling that this guy is evoking versus what he's saying or doing as evidence of what's truth and what's not truth. And sometimes ENFJs can think that they're wrong about certain situations, and they might be, but a lot of times they are correct in what their thought process is. Sometimes people will try to convince them that they're incorrect, which is what happened to this guy initially, but it turns out that what his hunch, his gut feeling was actually accurate. If you want to understand the introverted intuition from the ENFJ perspective, you may want to check out my video called Trust Your Gut Even When It's Wrong. And definitely it shows you that you have to be careful of manipulative people because they have been in practice for a very, very long time, which is what motivated me to write the Workplace Narcissist. It's not just about the workplace, it's about this particular type of narcissist and how they feed off of certain things like the workplace in order to fuel them. But you can end up in relationships with people like this because a lot of people aren't trained. They haven't developed an eye for it. So I help you to develop an eye for it. So if you want to check out my book, it's on Amazon right now by Tamara Hunter Zyon. And I think You will really, really enjoy it, especially if you like figuring out people and having an edge on the difficult people in this world. So please make sure you like this video. That's why ENFJs get so many of my videos. It's because they like the darn videos, so I know that they're watching them. So in the meantime, you guys have a wonderful day, and I will see you guys on the next one. Bye.